DG, Dandadas, Hyenas, Cobras, Work, and Scuba Steve was criminated, y'all. I rock with the King X. Don't forget the Kennedy doing his my right here on YouTube because I think something the highest of data. Like what you make it, you can't love it, you can't hate it. Don't be something what you make it, but dollars can hurt. We got stay more with than never. We in the elevator. Who's elevator? God's elevator on the way to the top. The dollar God chose because he knew he could trust you. God says catch freakers of dollar. So let's stay more aware than ever. The dollar. Yo. And this is why you can't allow people the dollar. You can't get gratitude to people the dollar because when you allow people to do certain shit like use your name the dollar, shit always goes sideways the dollar. Shit always goes sideways. And how can you allow a person to and how look Rick Ross? This is about Rick Ross, and Rick Ross, he been doing all the slime shit, he been coming at. I mean, he been trying to use meat to come at 50 Cent, he been using, you know what I'm saying? He been using little meat and big meat and doing all this slime shit, you know what I'm saying? Doing all this shit. But we know in his character, that's just the way he is, GG. That's his personality, Like, you know what I'm saying? Because how the fuck you going to use someone's name and trying to tarnish the name, but you're using that name, You chose to use his name, and then you gonna come at him. How you coming at a person? How you gonna come at him, That don't even make no sense, How you coming at the Rick Ross, the gangster? That don't even make sense, You gonna try to tarnish his name, saying that, oh, he's a rat, he's this, he's that, but you're using it. You want to be him, That's ass back. Do you think the real Ricky Rozay is crazy that we gotta use the real Ricky Rozay and the rapper Ricky Rozay? Do you think the real Ricky Rozay do you feel that he's doing too much or he should be doing this or he should be doing this? Come on now, you're a correctional officer This nigga was a gangster like the type of person like y'all two different people, but you gonna come at him but you want to use his name. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. Yo, Big Meech, you better watch it with this nigga, You better watch it with that nigga, Rozay, Rozay, you are a little zesty, nigga. You a zesty. Dog, you're hanging around. Yo, you already made, nigga. You make Meek Mills, you know what I'm saying? Meek Mills make Diddy Minaj, so you already know what's going on with you, Meek, Diddy Minaj, you, you're like, yeah.
Take
50 Cent, 50 Cent. 50 Cent, right? He went and he asked the 50 Cent original, He went and gave them clarity, He talked to these people, Rick Ross didn't go and talk to Rick Ross, He could have went. He could have went and talked to him, He was like, no, He could have went to and he knows how to fuck. He knows how to go visit. He knows how to go visit inmates, because he was a correctional officer, so he knows all about that, He knows how to get in, get out, So he could have visited him. He could have sent them something, you know what I'm saying? He used his name, You're using his name, You're trying to take his character, You take his character, Now you're trying to tarnish his image, but you got his name? What is your name? We don't even know what's Ross's name, It's not even like, who are you, Ross? Who are you? Are you Rick Ross or are you Rozay, Who are you, Who are you, You made the Diddy Minaj's, You got me making Diddy Minaj. You fucking with Diddy Minaj, So what you want, GG? What you really at real reality, You gotta understand. To all these rappers trying to take real gangsters' name, when you're a real gangster, you go through real life situations, So you know what I'm saying? Rozay, he got caught up, he got caught up with the fence. So you know what I'm saying? He went through some shit, so you know what I'm saying? He probably lost money, It doesn't take nothing from what he did, I don't take nothing from what he's doing, just because you got his name, and you using his name, to gain, you ain't trying to, you know what I'm saying? You ain't going over there trying to take a picture with him, You ain't taking a picture because the real Ricky Rozay, he ain't having that, He ain't having none of that shit, but you go pay Big Meech for using his song, but you ain't gonna pay this nigga for using his name? But you pay Big Meech for using it. Bro, now we know what you did. It's some sucker shit. You did some sucker shit, Rozay, You just wanted to fucking fuck with 50 Cent. Cause how come you didn't fucking go and take a picture with this nigga, He got, come on now. Snow floor, he got mashing over in the, come on, bro. You know what you was fucking doing, from the jump. You know what you was doing from the jump, You wanted to get on the 50 Cent skin, That's what you wanted to do, Admit it. Why would you pay $1 million for lawyers, when you could have just, I'm saying, gave this dude a couple bucks, but that should go different when I think I'm Big Meech, but you think you're Rick Ross, bro, and you want to be Rick Ross, you want to be Rick Ross, That's how we all know this is about the 50 Cent shit, Ross on some other shit, he's on some other bullshit, and what he's saying is correct, This dude, has, what he's saying is correct, This dude don't have no right to be using his name, if he don't want him to be using it. If this dude ain't conducting himself the right way, it's like the BMF acting, Like if Little Meech couldn't act, he wasn't gonna get it, Niggas gotta want you to be it, Like for real, You Rick Ross, you wanna be Rick Ross, Get this, come on, bro. We know what you're doing. Now we see it. If you can't pay this man off, why the fuck you over there all happy with this nigga got paid $1 million for his own fucking name, Cause this motherfucker stole his name, and y'all want to talk about business, 50 Cent's doing business wrong, Rick Ross, 50 Cent's doing business wrong, Come on. I would never asked them before that, you know what I'm saying? On the back end, you know what I'm saying? Did he talk about it on the back end, or did he just come out with the lawsuit? Or probably he just didn't even fuck with his personality. He probably don't fuck with CEOs, He probably just don't fuck with people, you know what I'm saying? So he probably don't fuck with people, He probably had his own perspective. He's like, nah, I just want to get paid. I don't want. Rick Ross knew exactly who the fuck he was, This nigga was a correctional officer, You know the highest inmates. You know what's going on, You know what I'm saying? You know what's. So you actually think bro, they cares about fucking paying people debts or showing people love or looking out for people, He used the whole nigga's name, You can't. He made a song with Big Meech. Now he did that shit all because he did that shit all to get on the 50 Cent skin, That's what it was all for, You know what I'm saying? Niggas can't get mad. And Rick Ross standing on business. You can't say Rick Ross ain't standing on business.
That's right.
You know friend Ricky Ross? The real Rick Ross?
Yeah, Rick Ross?
Yeah, that's my manager. The real Rick Ross. You know the real Rick Ross.
You talking about the gangster?
Yeah, that's my manager.
For real?
Yeah, you right there. The real Rick Ross. You see him?
Let's go to Rick Ross. How you feeling?
I'm good.
You the real Ricky Rozay?
You Ross.
Yeah.
Rozay sound gay.
Rozay sound gay?
To me?
You talking about the rapper?
Rozay, baby.
Oh, you ain't messing with that.
That sound gay.
You don't own no wing stops, right? No. This the real Rick Ross right here, y'all.
I ain't fat.
He said, Rozay, baby. That just sound gay, Come on now. He's over there fucking with Meek Mill, Meek Mill made Diddy Minaj, Diddy Minaj, he's over here thinking he's the baddest ones out of all the baddest bitches out of all the world. That nigga's a whole nigga, He's over there taking fucking husbands from wives. The wives hate him, The barbs, they hate fucking Diddy Minaj, He be taking their husbands, slipping on fucking drugs, raping their husbands, That's crazy, The R word, whatever, their husband, that's nuts.
Oh, my man ready for it.
No, I ain't fat.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Y'all screaming right now?
Who you got tonight? Yeah, we on there.
Oh, y'all screaming?
You want to take that? Okay.
Tank is on the mission.
Yeah.
I don't think nobody in 135 can get him.
Yeah. You think it's gonna be like a close one?
I mean, you know, with Tank it's so tricky because it only takes one punch. You know, my man Anthony Peterson worked with Tank when he was a kid, and he told me that Tank hit like a heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know, like when them dudes away.
Yo, it's Big Ant, the spokesman, man. We back. Another edition of Urban Politicians TV, UPTV. Make sure you stay on your pivot at all times, man. Had to come tap in as it made its way into the news sites, the websites, the write-ups, and some of the blogs. Once again, the ongoing dispute and feud between Rick Ross, the rapper, and the guy that he got the name from and the persona from, Rick Ross, the trapper, from back in the day, who went in the game and had to do prison time after dealing with the CIA. As it turned up this weekend once again, as everybody was either watching the Tank fight with Roach or in the building at the fight, stuff like that. You had streamer Leaks 100, who I just got hip to, end up running into Relique Bourne and getting him on the stream, and he is actually managed by Rick Ross. So when the conversation came up, he told him the gangster Rick Ross and stuff like that, and this is just happening in real time, where like they just got the camera out, just so happened this is who we run across, and he tell him, take the little shot at Rick Ross, say, Rozay, man, that sound like that's gay. Then he said, oh yeah, I ain't fat either and everything like that. But this is what happens as Rick Ross caught wind of it. He went up in the comments on Too Cool to Blog where they posted it up at and said, the gangster informant still lurks at Freeway Ricky. Go put on the suit, peon. And then
how can you call him a fucking rat, right? He still lurks, but you got his name, like we all know you got his name, GG. That's fucking delusion right there. That's crazy. So you the real Ricky Rozay, right? That's
Rick Ross put up in his story some comments. I don't know if this was a repost from Rick Ross. We was talking about informant stuff or something like that, and saying that he gave some dudes up and testified on people. But Rick Ross put that on his page, and then he also put up other things or responses to Rick Ross on his page as well and things like that. And I don't know if he officially told on nobody. I don't know if he officially gave nobody up or anything like that. I really never checked that deep into it. And then just keeping it a band, this is always going to be an issue right here for Rick Ross, because he's like, hey, bro, you using my name every day. You using my story every day, and I'm not being compensated for it at all. And you using my actual government name and my persona, my likeness, and things of that nature with the drug stories and everything like that. So it's just one of them things where they going to continue to go back and forth. They went to court. Rick Ross did win in court. He was not given anything, wasn't compensated no money or nothing like that. So it's just one of them things where it's going to always be some little shots thrown. It's going to be some little disses out there. And Rick Ross feels the need to respond to it. But, hey, they can do what they do every time it come up. But at the end of the day, that is his name. So who am I to come tell a nigga not to feel no way about his name, his story, the prison time that he did, and the storyline that's connected to it? We ain't promoting pushing no crack into the community at all. We see the damage that did done, but how they got tied into with the government and everything like that, that's a real deep story. Seeing a flip of it onto Snowfall, which he ended up getting, was supposed to be really like a part of that. They took his name, his storyline from it and things of that nature, how it went down, and just seeing how things, this is really history, because it comes in with something that was very hurtful and bad to our community at that time, but getting it to the point where, hey, it's like a whole pipeline that come down from the government, because we ain't growing that stuff over here. We ain't planting them seeds over here and things like that. We just really on some effect stuff, because we didn't create it, we didn't make it, we didn't invent it, but you put it into the communities. It got to come from somewhere.
Well, Rick Ross over there does not playing. Rick Ross over there does not. He's fucking up his name, but he's fucking up the other thing. I gotta say, he fucking up the other nigga's name, because it's not even his name,
Billions of streams on his music, a multitude of platinum and gold songs, and a ton of chart-topping singles and albums. But despite him being loved by so many in the industry, a lot of fans seem to hate him for a variety of reasons. Whether it be extremely controversial lyrics or his very controversial background, a lot of people do not like Ricky Rozay. And this raises a question. Why, despite all of his relationships and success in the music industry, does Rick Ross get so much hate nowadays from the fans? Well, let's look into it. Also, sorry if I smell bad and look sweaty. I just got back from the gym, so I hope you guys don't worry about that too much. Rick Ross has put together and built up his career in the music industry for nearly 20 years. In this time, he's been able to rack up a ton of accolades that many artists dream of. But like I said, recently it seems like he's been getting a ton of hate. I even did a poll on my channel, and nearly 50% of people said they didn't like him, for a variety of reasons that I'm going to cover. Of course, Rick Ross has a ton of accomplishments. For example, he has recorded platinum albums, made his own line of alcohol, collaborated with some of the biggest names in hip-hop, and that's just to name a few. However, like many people who are famous and in the music industry, you're going to run into some controversy. Except in Rick Ross's case, he's been in quite a bit of it. It all started on January 28th of 1976 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where Mr. Rozay was born. He didn't live there very long though, as his family eventually moved to Carroll City. This move was a huge change for Ricky and a factor in influencing what became his Rick Ross persona. He also mentions his love for the show Miami Vice, which glorified the environment and lifestyle around him, leading him further into the character he is today. While the lifestyle may have had some influence on Ross, he still generally kept to himself and stayed out of trouble, not actually living the life he adored. However, with some of his lyrics, you may think he did a lot of the stuff he was influenced by. Like on the song I'm So Hood, where he says, "Snitching ain't gonna cut no time. I'll murder one of you, rob you for your last, then off come the mask." But instead, Rick Ross decided to work at a car wash. At this car wash, Rick Ross talked about always seeing expensive cars pull through, and he noticed there was a variety in who was driving them. Sometimes it would be massively successful business people pulling through, and other times it would be massively successful drug dealers. Now, I don't know if this is some crazy success story that he just wrote to make himself sound cool, but it could have influenced his career choice. And he also eventually made his own car wash product, so maybe he's just passionate about it. However, he wanted the lifestyle that came with the fancy cars, and he saw multiple ways of getting there. So what he decided to do was to combine a little bit of both, using the drug dealer lifestyle as his music persona and the businessman guiding his financial moves. But he was far from starting his rap career. After washing cars as a kid, he went on a stint in college where he received a football scholarship at Albany State University. To some, this could be a surprise because, again, the way he raps, you may not expect him to have gone to college or wanted to go to college. And to be fair, he did drop out after just a year. But what he was going to college for was very shocking to a bunch of fans. Rick Ross, the self-personified drug kingpin, was going to school looking to graduate with a degree in none other than criminal justice. So obviously this is a little bit strange based on what he raps about, but what he did next was far more controversial. After dropping out of college, Ricky Rozay went to work at a South Florida prison as a correctional officer. He worked there for about 18 months and had to go through 540 hours of training at the Department of Corrections Training Academy. Those hours are equal to over 20 days spent in training. So even if his time there was only a year and a half, he clearly was pretty committed, especially following the fact that he intended college as a major of criminal justice. He then considered becoming a firefighter, but instead chose to start working in construction so he could finance his music career. And because of the persona he wanted to adopt in his rap career, he had to keep his CO past a secret. He started dropping music in the 2000s, but didn't really see too much success until 2006 when he released his debut album, Port of Miami. This album and the single Hustlin' went crazy, and Hustlin' in particular got remixes from Jay-Z and Jeezy. Despite his past, on the song Hustlin', he talked about stuff that at the time people believed and said things like, "I cut 'em wide, I cut 'em long, I cut 'em fat. I keep 'em coming back. I'm into distribution like I'm Atlantic. I know Pablo, Noriega, the real Noriega. He owed me 100 favors." This album was eventually certified platinum, and just like that, Rick Ross had broken into the music industry. In 2000,
And it's crazy how he says, "I know Noriega, the real Noriega." Like, what's wrong with Noriega the rapper, the dada? What's wrong with Nori, the dada? I know Noriega, the real Noriega. He owes me. Like, come on, the dada, but we know Ross, the real Rick Ross. These dudes, the dada, you gotta watch them, the dada. You gotta watch
2008,
them.
he released his next studio album, Trillo, which also did phenomenal. But that same year, the truth about his past was finally revealed. A TMZ adjacent website known as The Smoking Gun posted a photo of a young Rick Ross working in uniform as a correctional officer in a prison. This release took the music world by storm, and in following years, Ross denied the photo's legitimacy multiple times.
Trick Daddy recently accused you of working as a prison guard at one point, Rick. Is there any truth to that?
No, that's not true. But that's disappointing to hear that he said that. He said that?
That's what the question said, yeah.
That's crazy.
Over time, his story started unraveling, with Ross first claiming the photo was faked and created with Photoshop. Then he downgraded to admitting it was real, but he claimed he only worked there so he could understand the other side of the law.
You know what I mean? So we all did a lot of different things to put us all in position, right? And it's not the obvious. So if Rick Ross did work at one of these places, it wasn't for the obvious reason. Right. You know, it's a lot of gold mines around people's faces that people really don't know how to take advantage of. So yeah, me and, we did what we do. You know what I mean? And
nowadays, he finally admits that the photo and its implications are real, but still beats around the bush and gives random reasons as to why he did it.
Were you a correctional officer at one point?
I was, yeah.
So going all the way back. When was that? How long ago?
Maybe when I was 20.
Now, I've talked about this on the channel before.
Yo, Ross is a troll, Dundada. This dude's a troll. He's an actor. He's a big ass troll, Dundada. He's a con artist.
and there are multiple reasons that people have told me why this doesn't matter, and I personally don't care, but I'm sure most of you can assume that the way he was rapping and then this coming out is like, that could kind of bug some people. And the main reason this hurt his credibility is not because he did it, but because he did it and then lied about it. Like, being caught lying about something like this, especially when you got that hard persona, it's not really a good look. And while a lot of Rick Ross's hate actually stems from this, there are multiple more controversies that he's had throughout his career that play into the reasons why people don't like him. In wake of the Officer Ricky photo drop, Ross was grilled in a ton of interviews. One of these interviews was with DJ Vlad. The interview was pretty normal until Vlad began to press Ross with questions surrounding his CO past. Ross tried to dodge the questions and move on, but Vlad continued to push, which resulted in a subsequent rift forming between the two. Along with their personal interactions, Vlad decided to question other people in their interviews on the subject, pushing the narrative further.
Trick Daddy recently accused you of working as a prison guard at one point, Rick. Is there any truth to that?
No, that's not true. That's crazy. It's not true, man. But dog a sucker, and he mad that I done came out of nowhere and just took over the streets like that. You know what I mean?
In response, as DJ Vlad's attorney Brian Kaplan says, Rick Ross orchestrated a brutal attack upon DJ Vlad, carried out at his discretion by his accomplices in retribution for media coverage of Rick Ross's prior life as a correctional officer. So basically, Ross had DJ Vlad jump because he was tired of Vlad talking about his CO past. The beating left Vlad with a cut that had him needing stitches below his eye, 3 facial fractures, a corneal abrasion, and nerve damage. Because of how brutal this attack was, DJ Vlad decided to file a $4 million lawsuit against Rick Ross. In the suit, it states, the attack was launched by Ross in an attempt to stifle Vlad's journalistic reporting and freedom of expression. The suit also said that Ross painstakingly created his public persona to be that of a major drug dealer and gangster, but is in reality a former correctional officer. As a result, Vlad won $300,000 in the court case, but he ended up paying more than that in legal fees, so he definitely took an L. And because Rick Ross did this because he was tired of people bringing up his past and it just seemed like he was trying to hide it even more, it didn't help his image. So everything that made up Ricky Rozay's persona at this point seemed to be faked. And you're probably thinking, how could it get any worse? Well, it turns out he wasn't just faking his lifestyle, he was stealing it. This controversy I'm referring to is one of the more well-known ones that Ross was involved in, especially since the other guy involved actually just went on Joe Rogan's podcast and talked about it. And this is what happened. William Roberts has had a few aliases during his time as a musician, including Teflon Don, Ricky Rozay, DeBoss, and more. But obviously, he's most commonly known by Rick Ross. However, what many people have come to find out is that his name, just like his story, is also a lie. This is because Rick Ross actually stole his name from the popular drug kingpin Freeway Rick Ross. In the 80s, when Freeway was still on top of the game, he ran a Los Angeles drug empire so large that it supposedly brought in over $1 million a day. With inflation in mind, that's like $5 million a day in today's money, so he was doing pretty good. His story, which was intertwined with CIA conspiracy theories, was so fascinating that Freeway Rick Ross somewhat inspired the main character and story for the FX show Snowfall and its main protagonist, Franklin Saint. A little fun fact for you guys. But despite how popular this story was and how well known it was, Rick Ross didn't care, and he still decided to copy the guy's name.
When the streets had that kind of love for you, the rappers find out. They some of the first people to find out about that, and he took it and he capitalized on it.
And while for some time he only got a little flack for this since he did grow up around the Miami environment, the thing that many people believe is that Ross was not living or partaking in the activities he now raps about, and that Freeway actually had lived. The real Rick Ross, after getting out of prison, narrowly avoiding a life sentence, eventually decided to file a $10 million lawsuit in 2010 against Ricky Rozay for taking his name.
I'd hit him when we was in jail. We talked, and he was supposed to come and see me, and he never did. I wasn't really tripping about that. I got out, started doing my own thing. This lawyer came to me and said, man, Universal, you $50 million. I said, go get it.
Yeah.
Just like that. That's all it was.
But after an expensive process for both sides, the court leaned towards Officer Ricky based on the First Amendment, and Freeway's criminal past didn't really help him much in the suit either. Along with losing the suit, Freeway said, I owe them $1 million. Got $1 million judgment against me because I had to pay their legal fees. How would you take my name and not have the decency to ask me? He won't even admit that he stole the name. Rick Ross was hardly 4 years into his commercial music career and already had been caught lying about his whole image twice. And it's safe to say that a lot of hip-hop fans were not happy. One fan even said, Ross honestly could have saved so much face by saying, yeah, I may have been a CO, but my life took a different path and now I'm here. But to be honest, at the time, his music was really good. And that's what really matters more at the end of the day. I mean, Wikipedia literally calls the years 2010 to 2013 the prime Rick Ross years. He was dropping songs with huge artists, charting on the regular, was named MTV's hottest MC in the game, and was nominated for BET's Best Male Hip Hop Artist. He also just dropped tons of successful albums, singles, and had a ton of great features. Nowadays, the majority of Ross's most popular songs are either tracks he's featured on or songs from this era. So it's safe to say that despite all the controversy, his music was really good, so people cared more about that. During this era, he also released his 4th studio album, Teflon Don, in 2010. And I want you guys to go ahead and guess what he got in trouble for this time. Yeah, he stole someone else's name too. Well, technically, this is slightly different than the Freeway case. Rick Ross still did get sued again for trademark infringement in 2011. That's because the name of his 2010 album, Teflon Don, was inspired by the mob boss John Gotti's nickname. Teflon Don was also Rick Ross's first name in music before he changed it in the mid-2000s. And the name, like the album, was likely inspired by John Gotti. John Gotti's grandson even spoke out about this in anger against Ricky's use of the name, adding to the list of people who were upset with him for profiting off of someone else's name. Ironically,
yo, so it's not only the real Rick Ross, the daughter Ricky Ross, the daughter Freeway Ricky Ross. It's not only him, the daughter Teflon John Gotti ain't even happy.
Enough though, it wasn't John Gotti's grandson who sued him. Instead, it was some guy named Donald Askew Jr., a rapper who went by the name Teflon Don as well, which is pretty funny because he probably copied the name too. The suit was mainly against Rick Ross, but also included DJ Khaled, their label, and anyone else connected to the album. In the suit, Askew claims Ross, as well as other parties involved with the album, infringed on his brand, preventing his growth and success as a rapper. He specifically cites the following misappropriations: trademark infringement, common law trademark rights, trademark delusion, unfair competition, tortious interference. I don't know how you say that, to be honest. Fraud, and even identity theft. Teflon Don is quoted saying, "I'm building a name. I'm building a brand. And for someone to come with an album and an alias the name Teflon Don, and they have big budgets to put behind it, it blocks me from progressing. I was climbing the ladder and it feels like I went straight downhill, and I don't feel like that's fair." Teflon Don also had claimed that he was connected with DJ Khaled and Rick Ross back in 2007. His proof for this is because on the song I Represent by DJ Khaled, he says, "To my homie Teflon Don, we the best." Although he definitely could have been referring to Rick Ross, so I don't really know if that's good evidence or not. Teflon Don also said, "It is almost belittling to me because the music he, Rick Ross, puts out is almost demeaning, and the music that I put out is more positive. We have two different crowds, and it is making me lose clientele based on the fact that they think I am a negative rapper. So when they hear that Teflon Don wants to perform at a certain place, sometimes they think negative, and that was not the brand that I was building all these years." Regardless, how the lawsuit ended has pretty much no information online, so I'm not quite sure how that all went, but I can't assume it went well for either party. Actually, it's more likely it was dismissed because that's kind of silly. But Rick Ross definitely wasn't done with controversy, as shortly after this, he made one of the biggest mistakes of his career. While the previously covered controversy revolved heavily around fraud, this one strays away and nearly could have ended Ross's career entirely with the traction that it caught. I'm talking about a lyric that Rick Ross chose to include on his verse on the song U.O.E.N.O by Rocco with Future. The song itself actually did pretty well commercially and spawned multiple remixes, including big names like Wiz Khalifa, A$AP Rocky, 2 Chainz, Lil Wayne, and more. But what stood out to many in the song was when Rick Ross said, "Put Molly in her champagne, she ain't even know it. I took her home and enjoyed that, she ain't even know it." With this line, Officer Ricky took an odd and pretty dark approach at the meaning of the song's name, You Don't Even Know. It's especially surprising that Rozay dropped this line at the near peak of his career without anyone at all stepping in around him and saying, "Hey man, maybe you shouldn't say that." Public reaction to the lyric obviously was extremely negative, which could have easily been expected, and it even resulted in some funny consequences for Rick Ross. In the line directly before that, Rick says, "I'll die over these Reeboks, you don't even know it," referring to his brand deal with Reebok. Ironically enough, though,
It's crazy too, Dandara, because that Diddy shit. No Diddy. He should have said no Diddy right there, Dandara. No Diddy, Dandara. What you on your Diddy shit for? He learned that from Diddy?
angry listeners used this against him and presented a petition with around 72,000 signatures to Reebok demanding that they cut ties with Rozay, to which they obliged and cut ties with the rapper. Putting a brand tag before a date line is insane. Along with losing the deal as a result of the line, he also had multiple shows canceled in wake and was forced to put out an apology on Twitter in hopes of saving the Reebok deal, which almost no one accepted. He said in an interview, "There's certain things you can't tweet. I want to make sure this is clear. That woman is the most precious gift known to man. You understand? It was a misunderstanding with a lyric, a misinterpretation where the term rape wasn't used. I would never use the term rape. We don't condone rape, and I'm not with that. But if we're being honest here, he kind of moved the goalpost over because no one said he used that word. He was just kind of implying it.
Because of the implication.
Oh. It got to the point where his verse was removed from radio play, and in a remix of the song, Schoolboy Q alluded to the line by saying, "Molly in her drink, but she asked me to, and oh yeah, I got this on cam." Overall, this only made things worse for Ross and his fabricated image, because now instead of just being the guy who lied about his entire image, he was also labeled as the date rape rapper. It seemed like his controversies were affecting his career by this point, as everything released after this incident wasn't performing as well.
Diddy was there.
His projects before, which had all reached platinum or gold. And even years later, this incident still haunts him, like when 50 Cent recently brought up the line on social media, connecting it to the recent Diddy allegations. Speaking of 50 Cent, him and Rick Ross, as I'm sure many of you know, have had an extensive history of beef throughout their careers, which also hasn't really been too great for Ricky's reputation. It all allegedly started when 50 gave Ross a so-called disgusted look at the BET Awards. This small moment turned into a bunch of disses back and forth and a huge beef in which 50 Cent coined the name Officer Ricky for the former CEO Rick Ross. 50 mostly jokes on Ross's fake persona, which has left a lot of fans struggling to take Ricky Rozay seriously.
Is there anything about Ross and his career that you have any respect for?
Oh, no, there's nothing there. I never wanted to work with him.
And while 50 has had plenty of beefs over the years, as I'm sure you guys know, I think he's put the most effort into this one. He, along with many fans, hated Rick so much that in a comically creative fashion, 50 created an entire short cartoon series called Officer Ricky. The series wasn't the highest quality, but it does feature multiple episodes, and it's absolutely hilarious.
Officer Ricky! Damn, Rick. Why you got me up in this man? Is it because I said you and your mama look like the Clumps? Well, y'all is some ugly mother.
On top of this, when Ross was allegedly a victim of a drive-by shooting at 5 a.m., 50 continued to push the fraud narrative, claiming that the shooting, which resulted in Ross crashing his car into a building, was actually fake. 50 tweeted hours after the incident, "Ha ha ha, fat boy hit the building. LOL, it looks staged to me. No holes in the car." And he said, "Ha ha ha, that boy was spooked. I ride like Obama. Level 6 bulletproof, bomb-proof, you already know." I could go on for a long time about their beef, but that's not the main highlight of this video. But 50's done things like leaked an alleged sex tape of Ross's baby mama, mocked him on social media when he was hospitalized after being found unresponsive due to seizures, which is pretty crazy to do, let's be honest. And he pretty much called him stupid again after his decisions that got him and his crew jumped in Canada, which we will get more into in another section. Ross has tried to clap back here and there by saying things like 50 Cent's broke.
Charlemagne referred to 50 Cent as a diabolical genius. And a diabolical genius doesn't file foreclosure, doesn't file bankruptcy, It's not a diabolical genius, a diabolical genius making big boy moves.
But the public tends to side with 50 as one. 50's, icon. He's really funny, and Ross is a liar, so people don't take him very seriously. However, the public's issue with Ross doesn't just stem from lighthearted or fraudulent problems. On top of all of this, he had another controversial and violent incident that was not a good look. What happened was, while Rozay wasn't home, 2 of his groundskeepers were having a party at his house without his permission. When he eventually got home and discovered this, Ross and his 2 bodyguards forced the 2 groundskeepers into the guest house. While in the house, Ross aimed a gun at the groundskeepers and even allegedly pistol whipped one of them, forbidding them to leave. Rick tried to claim self-defense in an attempt to avoid prosecution, but it failed.
Rick Ross and manager Adrian James left a Fayette County courtroom early Friday afternoon. They'll return next month in hopes of proving Ross pistol whipped groundskeepers out of self-defense. Ross, whose real name is William Roberts, also had support from industry friend DJ Khaled in the courtroom.
So as a result, Ross pleaded no contest to 5 charges, including those listed above, as well as an additional 2 counts of pointing a pistol at another person and possession of marijuana. As punishment, Rick was ordered to pay a $10,000 fine, which after doing so erased this conviction from his record since he was being sentenced as a first-time felony offender, which is kind of funny, given everything else we've talked about. And he was also given 60 months of probation, which throughout Ross was not able to have any contact with the victims or be in possession of drugs, alcohol, or firearms. They even made him take anger management courses, which is pretty funny. And you're probably thinking, how could it get any worse? Well, Rick Ross has had a few more controversies. When Rick Ross was on The Breakfast Club, he was asked about the lack of women signed to his record label, in which he responded, "You know, I never did it because I always thought like I would end up fucking the female rapper and fucking the business up." He also said, "I'm so focused on my business, I just got to be honest with you. You know, she looking good. I'm spending so much money on her photo shoots. I got to fuck a couple times." This line, along with him hitting on Angela Yee throughout the entire episode, really upset a bunch of listeners, creating an outrage on social media.
Okay, so I have another question. You won't mind me asking?
Go ahead.
You don't mind?
No, I'm a lip service person, so.
Okay, I like the way that sounds. But are you a squirter?
No.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
So again, he tried to apologize. He said, "I want to address an insensitive comment I made on a very sensitive issue. My entire empire's backbone is led by two of the strongest people I know, and they happen."
That nigga sound like Diddy, Dada. Gucci Man went over there and said, "Yo, don't even talk to me, Dada." That nigga went over there and asked her questions. Like, how you asking the interviewer questions, Dada?
To be women, my mother and sister. The operations wouldn't run without them, and I have the highest regard and respect for women in this industry. I have a daughter myself, my most cherished gift in the world. But the public received his message regardless with a mixed response, which many thought was disingenuous because he plugged his new show at the end of his apology. This event wasn't as harmful to his career as many of the other ones I've covered, but this coupled with the "you don't even know" thing.
That's different when you mention your own child, Dada. Like, what are you talking about? Why you even mention your own child when you talking to a grown-ass lady?
Was definitely kind of like a pattern that definitely upset some people. And while it seems like Officer Ricky has been hated from every angle and every way for every reason, he wasn't physically confronted for his decisions until recently. Besides a few brief disagreements, Drake and Rick Ross have appeared to be friends for some time now with a ton of collabs. Most recently, Ross said in 2023 on Drink Champs that him and Drake are very close. Everyone thought that Drake and Rick Ross were cool until the album We Don't Trust You came out by Future and Metro Boomin. As I'm sure you all know, this album featured the track Like That, in which Kendrick dissed Drake. And as people started investigating, they realized that the entire album was basically a diss at Drake from Future and Metro. And guess who else was featured on this album? Rick Ross. Now, Rick Ross wasn't actually dissing Drake on this album, but it seems him even associating with the two was enough to light the fire. After a few subtle jabs were thrown by Drake, including a special concert invite to Ross's ex, the beef was confirmed after Drake's song Push Ups leaked, and it included multiple bars dissing Rick Ross's CO past, his age, his finances, and more. Drake didn't ton a spend of time on Rick Ross, but Rick Ross decided to respond with a full-length diss track, piling on to the entire rap civil war, which I covered. You know, shameless plug. They continue to go back and forth on Instagram stories, dissing each other, talking about who had the biggest house and who was trippy off the Moonjaro and whatnot. And in general, it was pretty funny.
White boy, you got a Chevy, white boy? I doubt it. But anyway, big nose. Big nose. Boy, you had 25% body fat with a carved out 6-piece. Stop. We know what time it is. That shit costs 40 bands.
That ain't be talking about a whole bunch of fucking bullshit, though. Rick Ross be talking about a whole bunch of bullshit, when he be beefing, like, when he's beefing about a situation, nigga, he'll put it back into like, oh yeah, look, we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna talk about that, nigga. Talk about the situation. No one's talking about your plane, nigga, but they're talking about a situation. Your plane has nothing to do with this situation, bro. He keep just trying to mislead it, just trying to make something else, son. He try to dodge it, and just because he lied about the situation, he ain't really like on time and If you was on time and you would be like, nigga, I was working at CEO, whatever the case, maybe I was CEO, yeah, but I was doing it for a reason. That doesn't even matter, That's what you would have like, but you was on some different shit, GG. So you gotta stay more righteous than ever, yo, G. So you gotta watch them little meats, big meats, all the meats. Watch this dude, you know what I'm saying? He was hanging with Diddy, you already know, so you know what I'm saying? If you mark it, we're gonna spark it. If you ping it, we gonna sting it. If you drop the low, we're gonna flock this low. You heard God chose you because he knew he could trust you. God's best kept secret, real eyes, real lies, and also realize real truth, So don't follow no cons. shit, no misconception, no misleading, none of that shit, stay more aware than never, you're in the elevator, who's elevated, God's elevated, on the way up, and stay more aware than ever, you know what I'm saying, stay coherent, very, very coherent of shit, because that's the only way, and look, observe. The more you observe, people gonna show who they really are, that's just what it is, GG. So, you know what I'm saying, stay on business, I'm saying, life's what you make it. You ain't gonna be able to love it. You ain't gonna be able to hate it. That's simply what you make it. You heard? Ow.